What if I told you that the reason you've been feeling so much resistance lately isn't because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally doing something right? What if the chaos, the confusion, the sudden coldness from people you thought you knew, what if all of that isn't random at all, but a direct response to the fact that you woke up? And what if, hear me now, what if the moment you stopped playing their game was the exact moment they realized they'd lost all power over you? Chosen ones, listen to me with every fiber of your being. You didn't stumble across this message by accident. Heaven orchestrated this moment. God is speaking directly into your spirit right now, and He's saying, you see it now. You finally see it. There's a shift happening in your life that the enemy never prepared for. The manipulators, the mind game players, the emotional puppet masters, they're scrambling, they're sweating, they're panicking. Why? Because the one thing they depended on, your confusion, is gone. You caught on. And that terrifies them more than any confrontation ever could. See, manipulators don't fear your anger. They don't fear your words. They fear your awareness. Because the moment you see the game clearly, the moment you recognize the pattern, the motive, the script they've been running on you for months or even years, their entire system collapses like a house of cards in a hurricane. You didn't just notice their behavior. You saw the intention behind it. You saw the insecurity fueling the control. You saw the fear behind the bravado. You saw the jealousy masked as concern. And beloved, once a chosen one sees truth at that level, there is no mask thick enough, no performance convincing enough, no manipulation slick enough to recover the illusion. That's why they're upset. That's why they're acting erratic. That's why their energy around you has shifted from confident to chaotic. You broke the spell, and they know it. Now here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Your clarity didn't just expose them, it reclaimed your authority. Every moment you chose not to react, not to defend yourself, not to fall back into their emotional traps, you were taking back ground. You were dismantling their influence. You were walking into a dimension of spiritual maturity they can't touch. Proverbs 28:1 declares, "The wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion." Chosen one, you are that lion. Your discernment is roaring, and the counterfeit is running. Before we go deeper, and we are going deep today, I want to say thank you. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to join thousands of chosen ones walking this path, and drop 777 in the comments. That number carries divine alignment, signaling to the heavens that you're ready. Ready to step into the clarity, the power, and the authority God has prepared for you. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will not only validate what you've been sensing, It will weaponize your awareness for the battles ahead. Why is it that the moment you started seeing clearly, certain people suddenly became uncomfortable around you? Why did your peace, your simple, quiet peace, trigger such chaos in others? And why does your silence now feel more threatening to them than any words you could ever speak? Beloved, let me tell you something that will unlock everything you've been sensing. Manipulators don't survive in the light of your awareness. Their entire existence depends on one fragile condition: that you remain confused, distracted, and emotionally accessible. The second that condition breaks, so does their power. And chosen one, that's exactly what happened to you. You didn't just wake up, you evolved. And that evolution exposed a truth they've spent years trying to hide. They were never in control. You just believed they were. See, manipulation is a theater production. It requires actors, a script lighting, and most importantly, an audience that believes the performance is real. Every manipulator you've encountered has been running the same tired play. Act 1. They create confusion. They send mixed signals, hot one day, cold the next. They make you question your memory, your feelings, your reality. Did I really say that you're being too sensitive? You're overthinking. Sound familiar? This isn't accidental. This is emotional baiting, a deliberate strategy to keep you off balance. Because when you're confused, you're controllable. When you're second-guessing yourself, you're not questioning them. Proverbs 26:24-25 warns us, enemies disguise themselves with their lips, but in their hearts they harbor deceit. Though their speech is charming, do not believe them. That charm, that's the bait. And for years, beloved, you bit down on it. Act 2. They weaponize your empathy. They know you're kind. They know you see the good in people. They know you'd rather heal than hurt. So they twist that beautiful quality into a trap. They play the victim when you set boundaries. They guilt you when you choose yourself. They make their emotional instability your responsibility. After all I've done for you, you're abandoning me. You've changed. No, chosen one. You didn't change. You woke up. And they can't manipulate a mind that's no longer asleep. Matthew 10:16 tells us, "Be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves." God is not calling you to be naive. He's calling you to be discerning. There's a difference between being loving and being a doormat. And the moment you learn that difference, their game ended. Act 3. They isolate you from your own intuition. This is the most dangerous part. They make you doubt the very voice of God speaking through your spirit. You're paranoid. You're reading too much into it. Nobody else has a problem with me, just you. But here's what they don't tell you. Your spirit was picking up on what your eyes couldn't see. That unease you felt, that wasn't anxiety. That was discernment. That hesitation before you trusted them again. That wasn't unforgiveness. That was wisdom. Hebrews 4:12 declares, "The Word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. It penetrates even to dividing soul and spirit." Beloved, God gave you spiritual X-ray vision. You weren't imagining things. You were seeing things, seeing past the mask, past the performance straight into the motive. And that's when everything shifted. You stopped reacting. You stopped defending. You stopped explaining yourself to people who had no intention of understanding you. You just observed. And in that observation, you became dangerous. Because a manipulator's greatest fear isn't your anger, it's your clarity. When you see them clearly, they can't hide. When you see their pattern, they can't surprise you. When you see their motive, they can't disguise it as care. Your awareness didn't just interrupt their strategy, it dismantled their identity. Because without the ability to confuse you, who are they? Without the power to guilt you, what leverage do they have? Without access to your emotions, what control remains? Psychologists will tell you this. When you catch a manipulator in the act, even silently, their brain registers it as a threat, not a discovery. They don't feel seen, they feel cornered. And a cornered manipulator doesn't apologize. They escalate. They gaslight harder. They project faster. They accuse you of the very things they're doing. Why? Because exposure destroys the illusion they've built their whole life around. You didn't just see their tactics, you saw their weakness, and that terrifies them. But here's the revelation that changes everything. The true power in manipulation was never the trickery itself. It was the confusion it created, the fog, the doubt, the emotional chaos that kept you spinning. Once that fog lifted, once you saw the game with sober eyes, the manipulation lost its fuel. You weren't feeding it anymore. You weren't reacting anymore. You weren't participating anymore. And a game without a willing participant, that's not a game. That's a monologue nobody's listening to. Isaiah 54:17 promises, "No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you." Beloved, you just activated that scripture. Not with your words, with your awareness. So let me ask you this. Chosen one, can you feel it? Can you feel the shift? The atmosphere around you has changed because you changed. The people who used to control your emotions can't even get a response out of you now. The situations that used to drain you don't even register anymore. You're walking in a dimension of peace. They can't touch a frequency of clarity. They can't jam. And that, beloved, that is what's making them panic. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share. When was the moment you broke free? When did you finally see through the manipulation? When did you stop playing their game? Your testimony could be the key that unlocks someone else's chains. Let's build a community of chosen ones who refuse to be played. Because when we share our stories, we don't just heal, we armor up the next generation. This is just the beginning. Because now that you've recognized the games, it's time to understand what happens when manipulators realize they've lost. Stay with me. Here's what nobody tells you about breaking free from manipulation. The moment you gain clarity isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or fanfare. It comes as a whisper, a quiet knowing, a sudden, unshakable peace that settles in your spirit like morning light breaking through darkness. And in that stillness, beloved, everything changes. Not around you, but within you. And when the inside shifts, the outside has no choice but to follow. Let me paint you a picture. There was a version of you, maybe weeks ago, maybe months, maybe years, who woke up every morning with a knot in your stomach. A version of you who checked your phone with anxiety, wondering what emotional landmine was waiting. A version of you who rehearsed conversations in your head, trying to predict their mood, trying to say the right thing, trying not to trigger another explosion. You walked on eggshells so long, you forgot what solid ground felt like. You dimmed your light so often, you forgot you even had one. You apologized for things you didn't do. You carried guilt that wasn't yours. You sacrificed your peace, trying to keep theirs. And beloved, that wasn't love. That was survival. But survival isn't the same as living. And God didn't create you to merely survive. He created you to thrive. Then something shifted. You can't even pinpoint the exact moment. Maybe it was a scripture that hit different. Maybe it was a prayer that finally broke through. Maybe it was the 50th time they played the same card and your spirit just said, "Not today." Whatever it was, a switch flipped. The fog cleared, the confusion lifted, and suddenly you saw it, all of it. The patterns, the cycles, the scripts they ran on repeat, the emotional manipulation disguised as care, the guilt trips wrapped in concern, the control masked as love. You saw it, and once you see beloved, you can never unsee. That's the moment you stopped being a victim and became a victor. Not because you fought them, not because you exposed them, but because you outgrew them. Here's what happened internally. Your mind became a sanctuary. Where there used to be chaos, now there's calm. Where there used to be anxiety, now there's assurance. Where there used to be noise, now there's clarity. It's like God reached into the storm of your thoughts and spoke the same words He spoke to the raging sea, "Peace be still." And just like that, the waves stopped crashing. Your emotions stopped swinging. Your thoughts stopped racing. You became an oasis in the middle of their desert. And beloved, that terrifies a manipulator more than any confrontation ever could. Because they don't know how to operate in your peace. Their tactics were designed for your chaos. Proverbs 14:30 says, "A heart at peace gives life to the body." Chosen one, your peace isn't just protecting you, it's exposing them. Because the calmer you became, the more erratic they got. You stopped reacting, so they pushed harder. You stopped engaging, so they provoked louder. You stopped defending, so they accused more. But none of it moved you. Not because you became cold, but because you became centered. Let me tell you what's happening in the spiritual realm while this shift is taking place. Every time you chose peace over retaliation, you built a fortress. Every time you chose silence over explanation, you raised a wall they can't scale. Every time you chose clarity over confusion, you lit a torch they can't blow out. You're not running from the battle, beloved. You're standing in it unmoved, unshaken, untouchable. Ephesians 6:13 commands, "Therefore put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground." You're standing, and they can't handle it. Because their entire playbook was written for someone who would crumble under pressure. But you're not crumbling, you're crystallizing. Every trial meant to break you is actually refining you. Every attack meant to weaken you is actually strengthening you. You're becoming diamond hard in the places you used to be glass fragile. And here's the moment that breaks them. They realize their games no longer affect you. They throw the bait, you don't bite. They press the buttons, nothing happens. They play the victim, you don't rescue. They go silent, you don't chase. They criticize, you don't defend. They guilt trip, you don't carry it. One by one, every tool in their manipulation toolkit becomes obsolete. And when a manipulator loses their power over your emotions, they lose their power, period. Because that's all they ever had, borrowed authority you unknowingly granted. But beloved, the moment you took that authority back, the dynamic inverted. Now they're the ones feeling unstable. Now they're the ones panicking. Now they're the ones scrambling to regain control. And the more they scramble, the more obvious their desperation becomes. The mask slips, the performance cracks, the true self emerges. And it's not pretty, it's not powerful, it's pitiful. But here's what you need to understand. Your transformation isn't just personal, it's prophetic. What God is doing in you right now is a sign of what He's about to do through you. You're not just breaking free for yourself, you're breaking cycles for your children, your lineage, your community. You're not just healing from manipulation, you're becoming a beacon for others trapped in it. Your story isn't over. It's just getting started. Romans 8:37 declares, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us." More than conquerors, not barely surviving, overcoming with overflow. Not just escaping, thriving in freedom. Not just healing, helping others heal. So pause right here with me for a moment. I want you to think back to one specific moment. One conversation, one argument, one situation where you felt completely, emotionally drained. Where you walked away feeling small, confused, guilty, exhausted. Can you see it? Can you feel it? Now, I want you to imagine that exact same moment, but with your newfound clarity, with the discernment you carry now, with the peace you've cultivated, with the spiritual armor you've put on. How different would it look? You wouldn't have defended yourself because you wouldn't have felt accused. You wouldn't have explained yourself because you wouldn't have felt misunderstood. You wouldn't have absorbed their chaos because you would have recognized it wasn't yours to carry. That moment that once devastated you, it wouldn't even register now. Not because you became heartless, but because you became wise. And wisdom, beloved, is the ultimate form of warfare. This is your victory. Not in what you said, but in who you've become. The manipulator didn't lose because you defeated them. They lost because you evolved past them. And there's no strategy, no tactic, no mind game sophisticated enough to touch someone operating on a higher frequency. You're not on their level anymore. You ascended. And now comes the overflow. Have you ever noticed how certain people seem completely transparent to you? Even when they're trying their hardest to hide? Have you ever felt like you could sense someone's true intentions before they even finish their sentence? And have you ever wondered why your spirit reacts to people in ways your mind can't immediately explain, but later always proves to be right, chosen one? What you're experiencing isn't paranoia. It's not overthinking. It's not even intuition in the way most people understand it. What you're experiencing is spiritual clarity, a divine gift that allows you to see beyond the mask, beyond the performance, beyond the carefully crafted words, straight into the truth of what's really happening. And beloved, this is the dimension where manipulators cannot survive. Because while they're busy perfecting their act for your eyes, your spirit is reading the script they're hiding backstage. They thought they were dealing with someone who only sees the surface. They didn't know they were standing in front of someone whose vision pierces straight through to the soul. Let me take you deeper. When God opens your spiritual eyes, you don't just see what people do, you see why they do it. You don't just hear what they say. You discern what they're not saying. You pick up on the energy beneath the smile, the motive behind the compliment, the agenda wrapped in concern. It's like suddenly being able to read a foreign language you never studied. The words don't change, but the meaning becomes crystal clear. And once you operate at this level, beloved, there is no going back. You can't unsee what the Spirit has revealed. You can't unhear what God has whispered to your discernment. Hebrews 5:14 tells us, "Solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil." Your spirit has been training chosen one. Every betrayal, every disappointment, every moment you trusted someone you shouldn't have, it wasn't wasted. It was sharpening your discernment like a blade being forged in fire. Now here's what shook the manipulators to their core. You stopped reacting to their performance and started responding to their intention. They could smile at you, but you felt the coldness. They could compliment you, but you sensed the envy. They could ask how you're doing, but you knew they were fishing for information, not offering care. And the most unsettling part for them, you didn't confront them. You didn't accuse them. You didn't expose them publicly. You simply knew. And that quiet knowing, beloved, that's what terrified them. Because spiritual discernment doesn't need evidence. It doesn't need proof. It doesn't need to argue its case. It just sees. And once it sees, the illusion collapses instantly. Think about it. These people spent months, maybe even years, carefully constructing a version of themselves they wanted you to believe in. They rehearsed their tone. They calculated their words. They measured their expressions. They controlled the narrative. But your spirit wasn't listening to the narrative. Your spirit was reading the energy. And energy, beloved, doesn't lie. You can fake a smile, but you can't fake a frequency. You can control your words, but you can't control the vibration you're emitting. And a chosen one who's walking in spiritual clarity picks up on that vibration before you even open your mouth. Psalm 24, 3-4 asks, "Who may ascend the mountain of the Lord? Who may stand in his holy place? The one who has clean hands and a pure heart, Chosen one, your purity of heart has unlocked purity of sight. You're not seeing through the lens of bitterness or suspicion. You're seeing through the lens of truth. And truth, beloved, is a frequency that manipulation cannot jam. Here's the moment everything broke for them. They realized their facade had fallen apart, not because you tore it down, but because you stopped validating it. Every manipulator needs one thing to survive: someone who believes the lie, someone who buys the performance, someone who accepts the mask as the face. But you stopped playing along. You stopped nodding at the lies. You stopped making excuses for their inconsistencies. You stopped filling in the gaps of their carefully edited stories. And the moment you withdrew that validation, their entire constructed identity crumbled like a sandcastle hit by a wave. They couldn't charm you because you saw the agenda behind the charm. They couldn't guilt you because you recognized the manipulation behind the tears. They couldn't confuse you because your clarity had already mapped the maze they were trying to trap you in. 1 Corinthians 2:14-15 declares, "The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but the one who is spiritual discerns all things." You leveled up, beloved. You're operating in a realm they can't access, and they feel it. But let's go even deeper. This spiritual clarity didn't just expose them, it liberated you. For years, maybe you felt crazy. You felt like you were the problem. You questioned your own perceptions, doubted your own feelings, dismissed your own instincts. But now you understand. You weren't crazy. You were discerning. You weren't imagining things. You were seeing things that others chose to ignore. God was whispering warnings to your spirit, and even when your mind tried to rationalize the red flags away, your spirit kept sounding the alarm. And now that you've learned to trust that inner voice, you've become unstoppable. Because a chosen one who trusts their spiritual discernment cannot be deceived. They cannot be played. They cannot be gaslit into doubting what the Spirit has already confirmed. And here's the part that changes everything. This clarity isn't just defensive, it's offensive. You're not just avoiding manipulation anymore. You're dismantling it with your presence alone. Your peace exposes their chaos. Your stillness reveals their instability. Your silence unmasks their noise. You don't have to say a word. Your energy does the talking. And manipulators can't operate in that environment. They need drama. They need confusion. They need emotional fog. But you're walking in clarity. And clarity is like sunlight to shadows. The moment it shows up, the darkness has no choice but to flee. John 8:32 promises, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Beloved, you're not just free, you're operating in freedom. And that freedom is a weapon they never saw coming. So let me ask you this. How are things becoming clearer for you now? What are you finally seeing that you couldn't see before? Maybe it's a relationship you stayed in too long. Maybe it's a pattern you kept repeating. Maybe it's a person you trusted who never deserved that trust. Drop a comment and tell me, what has spiritual clarity revealed to you lately? Because your testimony isn't just your story. It's a lighthouse for someone else still lost in the fog. And when we share what God has shown us, we multiply the light. We don't just walk in clarity, we spread it. The veil has been lifted, chosen one. And now that you see clearly, there's no going back. The next question is, what are you going to do with this clarity? Because awareness without action is just information. But awareness with movement, that's transformation. And we're about to step into that next. Here's what nobody tells you about awakening. The storm doesn't stop. You just stop drowning in it. The manipulators, they're still out there. The mind games still being played. The chaos still swirling. But something fundamental has shifted inside of you, chosen one. You're no longer in the storm, you're above it. And that elevation, that's not arrogance, that's authority. That's what happens when God opens your eyes and you finally see the battlefield from His perspective instead of the enemy's. Picture this, a massive ship cutting through violent ocean waves. The wind is howling, the rain is pounding, the thunder is cracking the sky in half. But inside that ship, the captain stands unmoved, not because the storm isn't real, but because he knows the storm. He's studied the patterns. He's read the signs. He's navigated these waters before. And while everyone else is panicking, he's simply adjusting the sails and staying the course. That's you now, beloved. You're the captain. And your awareness, that's your compass. The chaos around you hasn't changed, but your response to it has been revolutionized. You're no longer being tossed by every wave of manipulation. You're no longer spinning in every emotional whirlpool they create. You see it forming before it hits. You recognize the pattern before it completes. And instead of reacting, you're simply navigating. Let me show you what this looks like in real time. They try to bait you emotionally. You don't bite, you observe. They try to guilt you into compliance. You don't absorb it, you assess. They try to create confusion with mixed signals. You don't chase clarity from them. You are clarity. Psalm 119:105 declares, "Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path." Chosen one, God's word didn't just illuminate your path, it illuminated their tactics. You're walking in divine revelation now. And once revelation hits, manipulation can't survive. It's like trying to hide in a room full of floodlights. There's nowhere left to conceal the truth. Here's the transformation. What used to confuse you now instructs you. What used to hurt you now informs you. What used to control you now reveals them. Every tactic they throw at you isn't an attack anymore. It's intelligence. It's data. It's confirmation of what you already discerned in your spirit. They think they're still playing you, but really, they're just showing you exactly who they are over and over again in high definition. And the more they try, the more transparent they become. It's almost predictable now, isn't it? You can see it coming 3 moves ahead. The fake apology, the sudden affection after distance, the guilt trip disguised as concern, the accusation that's really projection. You've cracked the code, beloved. And once a chosen one cracks the code, the game is over. But here's where your power truly ignites. Your clarity doesn't just protect you, it transforms you. You're not the same person who walked into their trap. You're sharper now, wiser now, stronger now, more discerning now. You've been refined in the fire of their manipulation, and what's emerged is pure gold. Proverbs 25 verse 4 says, "Remove the dross from the silver, and a silversmith can produce a vessel." God used their chaos to remove every ounce of naivety from your spirit. He used their games to sharpen your discernment into a weapon. You're not a victim anymore, chosen one. You're a vessel of divine authority. And that authority doesn't scream. It doesn't fight. It simply knows. And knowing. That's the ultimate power. So right now, I need you to do something. I need you to declare it, not just in your heart out loud. Type it in the comments. Let the spiritual realm hear you. Let the enemy know you've shifted. Let heaven witness your new posture. Declare, "I am the calm in the storm." Say it again. I am the calm in the storm. Because that's not just a statement, beloved. That's your new identity. You don't react to chaos. You command it. You don't fear manipulation. You expose it. You don't get lost in the fog anymore. You are the lighthouse. And once you step into that identity, everything changes. Because clarity isn't passive. It's transformative. It doesn't just keep you safe. It positions you for dominion. So, here we are, chosen one. You've walked through the fire of recognition. You've confronted the truth of manipulation. You've reclaimed the authority that was always yours. And now, standing on the other side of that awakening, you're no longer the person they thought they could control. You're no longer operating from confusion, fear, or the need for their approval. You are operating from a place so powerful, so divinely anchored, that their old tricks don't just fail, they dissolve the moment they touch your energy. Let me remind you of who you've become. You're not the version of yourself that used to tolerate disrespect out of politeness. You're not the person who explained yourself to people who never intended to understand. You're not the soul who carried guilt for setting boundaries or shame for choosing peace. That person, they died the moment you woke up, and what rose in their place is a warrior of clarity, a vessel of divine discernment, a chosen one who sees through illusion and walks in unshakable truth. Revelation 12:11 declares, "They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." Beloved, your testimony is your weapon. Your awareness is your armor. And your peace, that's your throne. You see, the manipulators in your life thought they were dealing with someone they could break. They thought confusion was your permanent state. They thought guilt was your default setting. They thought access to your emotions was a right, not a privilege. But every single assumption they made about you was based on who you were, not who you've become. And that gap, that canyon between their outdated strategy and your elevated consciousness, that's where their power died. They're still trying to manipulate a ghost. They're still speaking to a version of you that no longer exists. And every failed attempt, every ignored bait, every unanswered provocation is a reminder that you are untouchable now. Here's the climactic truth they'll never admit. You were never the problem. Your kindness wasn't weakness. Your empathy wasn't naivety. Your silence wasn't permission. The problem was always their inability to function without control. And now that you've removed yourself from their reach, now that you've stepped into your God-given authority, they're left with nothing but their own emptiness. Isaiah 41:10 promises, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you." That strength you're feeling right now, that's not confidence. That's confirmation. Confirmation that you were chosen for this moment. Confirmation that you were built to rise above. Confirmation that no weapon formed against you will prosper, not because you fight it, but because you've outgrown its reach. So what now, beloved? You walk forward. You walk boldly. You walk knowing that the clarity you've gained isn't just a gift, it's a responsibility. A responsibility to protect your peace, to honor your discernment, to refuse every invitation back into chaos. You are no longer vulnerable to their games. You are no longer moved by their tactics. You are anchored in truth, rooted in purpose, and covered by the hand of God Himself. And that chosen one is a position no manipulator can penetrate. If you've truly broken free, if this message has awakened something undeniable in your spirit, then it's time to take the next step in your divine purpose. Subscribe to this channel and join a tribe of chosen ones rising in clarity. Hit that like button to signal to the algorithm and to the heavens that you're done playing small. Drop 777 in the comments one final time to seal your declaration. I am awake. I am aware. I am unstoppable. And share this message with someone who needs to hear it, because your freedom could be the key to theirs. Keep rising, beloved. Your clarity is your crown. God bless you. Chosen ones, as we come to the close of this journey, I want you to pause and reflect on all that has unfolded. You started in confusion, doubt, and manipulation. But look at you now. You have awakened. You have stepped into clarity, into your divine purpose, and into a place where nothing can hold you back. Your evolution has become your victory, and no one can take away what God has already given you. Clarity is not just knowledge, it's your crown. It is the divine light that illuminates your path, the strength that guides your every step. With this clarity, you have everything you need to walk confidently into the destiny that has been waiting for you. You are no longer the person who is tossed by the waves of manipulation or confusion. You are now the person who controls the course of your life. Your mind is clear, your spirit is strong, and your purpose is unshakable. This clarity, chosen one, is your victory. It is the power that has been hidden within you all along, and now it is yours. No one, not the manipulators, not the doubters, not even the enemy, can take it away from you. Look back for a moment. Remember where you started. The confusion, the manipulation, the uncertainty. It seemed like a mountain too high to climb, didn't it? But look at you now. You've climbed that mountain. You've walked through the fire. You've faced the storm, and you've emerged victorious. You are now equipped with everything you need to step into your destiny. Your clarity is your compass. Your strength is your shield. And your faith is the foundation beneath your feet. With these, there is nothing you cannot accomplish. Your life is now a testimony to God's power, His love, and His perfect plan for you. Now, I want you to declare this truth, not just for yourself, but for the world to hear. I am walking in my clarity. I am stepping into my destiny. Drop a 777 in the comments if you are ready to continue this journey of empowerment, to live a life of clarity and strength, to walk confidently into the purpose that God has prepared for you. This is your moment, chosen one. Keep moving forward, knowing that the victory is already yours. Your clarity is your crown, and with that crown, you will change the world. God's hand is on you, and His plan for you. It's unfolding right now. You are walking in your purpose. You are living in your destiny, and nothing can stop you.